The suitcase
What was
wheels
that?
rattled across the concrete.
Hello, is someone there?
Too loud in the empty parking garage. Midnight turned everything metallic. Cold. Every step she took echoed back at her like doubt. She didn't look behind her. If she looked, she might hesitate. And hesitation was how he won. The elevator doors were closing when the first gunshot cracked somewhere above. Not close. Not far. Close enough to feel it in her ribs. She froze. Just for a second. The doors slid shut anyway. The echo rolled through the structure, then another shot. Voices. Running footsteps on the upper level. This wasn't random. She knew that immediately. A hand caught her wrist before she could reach her car door. Not rough. Not frantic. Firm. Controlled. She closed her eyes before she turned. Course it was him. Impeccable black coat. No tie. Not breathing hard. Not startled. His fingers tightened slightly, as if confirming she was real and not a rumor. He stepped closer, shielding her from the open levels of the garage without looking like he was doing it. More shouting upstairs. Tires screeching somewhere beyond the ramp. He leaned down, his mouth close to her ear, voice low enough that only she could hear it. You belong to me. Now and always. The words should have sounded insane. They should have made her pull away. Instead, her body reacted before her pride did. Flicker of heat. A memory of nights he had stood between her and worse things. She swallowed it down. Let go, she said, but it came out thinner than she intended. Another gunshot. This one closer. Concrete chipped near the column behind them. He didn't flinch. That was what frightened her most. He didn't even look surprised. He slid his arm around her waist and turned her sharply toward a black sedan idling 3 spaces down. The driver's door was already open. Engine running. Headlights off. Prepared. You knew, she whispered, trying to plant her feet. He opened the rear door and guided her inside before she could brace. Get in. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. 2 men she recognized from his inner security detail appeared from the stairwell, weapons drawn but hidden low against their legs. Not panic. Positioned. One of them scanned the upper levels while the other closed the car door after her with mechanical precision. She reached for the handle immediately. It wouldn't budge. Child lock engaged. The finality of that small click settled in her chest like weight. He slid in beside her just as another burst of shots echoed overhead. The driver accelerated before the door fully shut. Tires squealed as they shot toward the exit ramp. She turned on him. You set this up. No, he said calmly, eyes forward. But I anticipated it. The car swerved down the spiral ramp. Headlights finally flicking on as they burst into the street. City lights blurred past. Her suitcase was still in the garage. Abandoned. A symbol of choice left behind. She pressed back into the leather seat, pulse racing. They were watching me, weren't they? He didn't answer immediately. His jaw tightened once. That was answer enough. She felt something twist inside her. You used me. I protected you. His tone sharpened slightly. There's a difference. By dragging me into your car. He turned then. Looked at her fully for the first time since grabbing her wrist. Not angry. Not apologetic. Sessing. You think walking out tonight would have ended clean? Another vehicle appeared in the side mirror. Following too closely. One of his men murmured something in Korean. The driver adjusted lanes without hesitation. Her breath shortened. This wasn't over. Whatever happened in that garage wasn't isolated. It was moving with them. Who is shooting? She demanded. His gaze shifted back to the mirror. Not fear. Calculation. That, he said quietly, depends on which enemy moved first. The following car accelerated. The driver cursed under his breath. The night fractured again with the sharp pop of a muzzle flash behind them. The rear windshield spiderwebbed. Glass sprayed forward. He pulled her down instantly, covering her with his body as another shot tore through metal. His heartbeat was steady against her ear. Too steady. Like he had rehearsed this. like this was inevitable. The car lunged through a red light. Horns blared. The pursuing headlights split left suddenly, disappearing down another street. Silence didn't return. Hovered, waiting. He lifted himself slowly, scanning through the shattered glass. No tremor in his hands. No shock in his breathing. Prepared. She stared at him through the dim interior light, realization sinking deeper than fear. "You weren't surprised," she whispered. He met her eyes. Flicker there. Something unreadable. "I told you," he said softly, almost gently despite the chaos still humming around them. "Now and always." The car sped into darker streets. She didn't know if they were escaping, or if she had just crossed a line she could never uncross. Who was shooting, and why did he look like he'd been waiting for it? The car didn't slow until the city thinned into private roads lined with dark trees and taller gates. She hadn't spoken since the gunshots stopped. Neither had he. The silence between them felt engineered. When the sedan finally rolled through a steel barrier that opened without question, she understood something else had already been decided. Inside the compound, lights came on automatically. Guards moved with quiet efficiency. No one asked what happened. No one needed to. He stepped out first and offered his hand like nothing violent had occurred minutes earlier. She ignored it and climbed out on her own. "You knew they'd be there," she said again. He studied her carefully. "I knew someone would test the exit." "Test?" Her laugh came out hollow. "That was live ammunition." He didn't deny it. He led her inside through a private entrance, past marble floors and controlled air that smelled faintly of cedar. Polished, contained. He removed his coat and handed it to a waiting aide. Then he dismissed everyone with a single glance. The doors closed. Now it was just them. "Sit," he said, not unkindly. She stayed standing. He walked to his desk instead and opened a slim leather folder. Papers slid across polished wood toward her. "What is this?" "Read." She didn't want to, but she did. Her name appeared on the first page. Full legal name, date of birth, identification number. Listed as primary beneficiary of a private holding group registered offshore. The number of zeros in the asset column made her vision sharpen. "This isn't funny. It isn't meant to be." She flipped the page. Corporate seals. Signatures. Dates going back 3 months. Her signature forged with uncomfortable accuracy. "You used my identity. I secured it. You tied me to your money. I tied you to protection." She looked up slowly. "You didn't ask. If I had, you would have said no." He didn't sound defensive. He sounded factual. That frightened her more. "This company," she said, scanning the header again, "is under investigation." He paused just barely. That was all the confirmation she needed. "You involved me in something illegal. You were already involved the moment they identified you as important." "I never agreed to be important." His jaw tightened. "Importance isn't voluntary in my world." She stepped back from the desk as if the paper might burn her. "You trapped me." "No," his voice dropped. "I anchored you." "To what?" He moved closer, slower this time. "To assets that cannot be touched without consequence." "By who?" "By governments. By rivals. By men who thought tonight would scare you into leaving me vulnerable." Her chest rose sharply. "So you made me untouchable." "I made you expensive." The words landed heavier than she expected. He gestured toward the documents. "If anyone moves against you, they move against that portfolio, which moves markets, which attracts attention neither side wants." She stared at him. "You weaponized my name. I fortified it." Phone buzzed on his desk. He glanced at the screen and didn't hide the flicker in his expression this time. He answered in Korean, voice calm but clipped. She didn't understand every word. She didn't need to. When he ended the call, the air shifted. "What now?" she asked. "Your passport." He met her eyes. "It's been flagged." The word landed like a door closing. Flagged how? Administrative review. Secondary inspection required if you attempt departure. You said you anchored me. That sounds like confinement. Temporary. Defined by who? He didn't answer. That was answer enough. Her breathing grew uneven. So if I go to the airport right now, you'll be detained for questioning regarding financial irregularities connected to the holding group, which I didn't create. Correct. But my name is on it. Yes. Her stomach tightened. You forged my signature. I replicated it. That's a crime. He held her gaze steadily. So is kidnapping you in a parking garage. Silence stretched again. In his world, proximity becomes paperwork, he said quietly, almost to himself. She felt the truth of that settle like weight. Every time she stood near him, her life bent around it. Documents. Flag. Protection that looked identical to imprisonment. You should have told me, she said. You should have trusted me. Trust, he replied softly, is not how survival works where I operate. Another vibration on his desk. This time he didn't answer immediately. He watched her instead. The investigation is accelerating, he said after glancing at the message. They're digging deeper. Into me. Into us. She shook her head slowly. Did you trap me legally? Or are you protecting me from something worse? He stepped closer until the distance between them narrowed to a breath. That, he said evenly, depends on who reaches you first. The elevator doors closed with a soft metallic seal, and she felt it immediately. The air had changed. Not quieter. Thicker. 2 additional men stood inside now. They weren't there yesterday. Same black suits. Same emotionless posture. Different eyes. Watching her. Not him. When the doors opened onto the penthouse floor, another man stepped forward before she could move. Ma'am. Not a greeting. Signal. She looked past him to the long stretch of glass windows overlooking Seoul. He was standing there already, hands behind his back, waiting as if he had known the exact second she would arrive. She didn't speak. She walked past the guards, past the silence, past the sense that something invisible had shifted around her. You doubled security, she said finally. He didn't turn around. Tripled. The word landed like a door locking. Why? She asked. He turned then. Controlled. No visible tension. That was what frightened her most. Because you tried to leave. I tried to leave your apartment, she corrected. Not your country. In my world, he replied evenly. There's no difference. A phone vibrated on the marble counter behind her. One of the guards stepped forward instantly. Took it before she could reach for it. Checked the screen. Passed it to him. He glanced down once. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He didn't show her the screen. Give it to me. Her voice didn't waver. He walked toward her instead. Low. Measured. Your devices are being rerouted through secure channels for now. For now, she repeated. Temporary. Temporary like the car you won't let me drive alone. He stopped close enough that she could feel his body heat but not close enough to touch. Temporary like the fact that 2 men follow me to the bathroom. His expression darkened slightly. You noticed. I'm not blind. No, he agreed. You're not. Silence pressed in. Why? She demanded again. This time he didn't evade it. Because months ago, he said quietly, I made sure the world knew you were mine. Her pulse stuttered. What does that mean? He held her gaze. It means I placed your name beside mine in ways that couldn't be ignored. Publicly. Strategically. You what? I attached your identity to my holdings. The words felt clinical. Administrative. You registered me in your companies? Yes. Without telling me? Yes. The air thinned. Why would you do that? For the first time he hesitated. Because rivals don't attack what looks untouchable. So you branded me. I shielded you. By making me visible. Her laugh was sharp. That's not shielding. That's painting a target. His eyes hardened. You were already a target the moment you mattered to me. The words settled heavy between them. Possession creates enemies, he added, voice lower now. She stepped back. You don't get to decide what I am in your world. I already did. The answer came too fast. Too honest. A guard approached quietly. Whispered something in Korean. He listened. His face didn't change. Out, he ordered the room. The men vanished like shadows. The doors closed again. He turned back to her. You need to sit. Don't manage me. Sit. Something in his tone made her hesitate. She lowered herself slowly onto the edge of the sofa. He walked over. Placed the phone in her hand this time. Read it. The message was simple. No signature. No threat language. Just an address. Her childhood home in Busan. Street. House number. Nothing else. Her fingers went cold. How do they? They're reminding me, he said quietly, that you're not the only leverage. She looked up at him. Truly looked. You said marking me would stop this. It stopped the subtle moves. And this is escalation. Her throat tightened. Did loving you just put my family in danger? He didn't answer immediately. That terrified her more than if he had. I can move them, he said finally. Tonight. Without asking them. It's safer. Safer for who? His jaw flexed. For you. That wasn't my question. He crouched in front of her now, eyes level with hers. The moment my enemies understood you weren't disposable to me, they recalculated. Because you told them. Because I refused to pretend you didn't matter. You don't get to protect me like this. His voice softened but didn't weaken. In my world I do. A vibration cut through the room again. Not her phone this time. He glanced at the screen. Something changed. Controlled. But real. They've started moving. Her stomach dropped. Moving how? He stood. Already shifting into command mode. Your mother's street has unfamiliar vehicles. Her breath hitched. You said this was a warning. It is. Then why are cars there? He looked at her in a way that stripped away everything except truth. Because warnings are meant to test reaction time. She stood too fast. Call them. I already have men en route. Not your men. Me. He studied her for half a second, then handed her the phone. As it rang, she felt the walls closing in. Not the penthouse. The world. If anything happens to them, she began. It won't, he cut in. Too certain. To come. She pressed the phone harder to her ear. Ringing. Ringing. Then her mother answered, confused. Live. If. Now. She closed her eyes in relief. He watched her the entire time. Not the phone. When she hung up, he stepped closer again. I told you, he said quietly. You belong to me. She looked at him with something that wasn't fear anymore. It was realization. No, she whispered. You attached me to a war. His silence confirmed it. Outside the glass walls, the city lights flickered like distant gunfire. Inside, the air felt smaller. He moved toward the door, already issuing orders in a low, lethal voice. She stood alone in the center of the room, her childhood address still burning in her mind. Possession creates enemies. And now they knew exactly where to aim. The airport smelled like coffee and departure. She moved through the sliding doors with her passport already in her hand, sunglasses low on her face, hair pulled back tighter than usual. No guards. No announcement. No confrontation. She had left before dawn while the penthouse still slept behind reinforced glass. If he wanted to cage her, he would have to do it publicly. She stepped into the check-in line. Normal people. Normal conversations. Child crying 2 rows ahead. A couple arguing softly about baggage weight. For a moment it felt almost possible. She handed over her passport. The attendant smiled politely. Typed again. The smile faded. 1 moment, please. Her chest tightened. She didn't turn around. Didn't look for shadows. Didn't search for him. The attendant picked up a phone. Said something too softly to hear. 30 seconds. That was all it took. 2 men stepped into position behind her. Casual clothes. Baseball caps. Not security. Not police. They didn't touch her at first. Just closed the space. "Miss," one of them said, voice smooth. "There's an issue with your travel clearance." She kept her tone steady. "What issue?" "We'll explain privately." His hand settled at the small of her back. Not rough. Not gentle. Ownership without permission. She twisted away. "I'm fine here." The second man stepped closer. Blocking the exit. No badges. No airport insignia. She scanned their faces. Not his men. His men never hid what they were. These 2 were careful. Bullish. Dangerous. "You don't want to make this difficult," the first one murmured. "Difficult for who?" she shot back. A flicker passed between them. Not irritation. Calculation. One reached for her arm. She pulled back fast enough that her suitcase tipped over. Wheels spinning uselessly. Heads turned. Eyes lifted. A ripple of attention. The man's grip tightened. "Walk," he said under his breath. "Now." Her heart pounded so loudly she thought the entire terminal could hear it. She opened her mouth to shout. A gunshot cracked through the air before the sound formed. The first man jerked. His hand released her as red bloomed across his shirt. Screams erupted. Luggage dropped. The second man spun toward the source. She already knew. He stood 15 feet away near the glass entrance. No panic. No rush. Just precision. The gun lowered slowly in his hand. Smoke still curling. Another shot. The second man collapsed before he could draw whatever he had hidden under his jacket. Silence held for half a second before chaos exploded. Security alarms shrieked. People ran. Someone dragged her backward. She stumbled into a solid chest. His chest. "Stay behind me," he said calmly, as if they were discussing dinner reservations. Blood pooled across polished tile. Phones lifted. Cameras recording. "What did you do?" she breathed. He didn't answer. His eyes scanned the terminal with lethal awareness. More men rushed in now. His men. Too late to prevent it. Exactly on time to control it. Airport security froze at the sight of him. Recognition passed. Not respect. Not fear. Something heavier. He stepped forward once more and fired a final shot into the first man's shoulder. Not to kill. To finish certainty. Then he turned back to her. "You were supposed to wait. They weren't yours." "No," he slipped the weapon back beneath his jacket. Sirens wailed closer. Red lights flashing outside the glass doors. "We need to go. You just killed someone in an airport." He was already dead when he touched you. He reached for her wrist. She didn't resist this time. Cameras were everywhere. News vans already screeching into position outside. She could see the headlines forming before the reporters even arrived. Mafia boss executes men in public terminal. Woman beside him unidentified. Or worse, identified. They moved through a secured corridor she didn't even know existed. Doors opening before they reached them. Staff stepping aside without protest. Outside, a black vehicle waited with engine running. As they drove away, she looked back once. The flashing lights reflected in the glass like strobe lightning. Her pulse refused to slow. "You said marking me would prevent this." He kept his gaze forward. "It prevented them from taking you quietly. So they escalated." "Yes." "And you answered." "Yes." The car accelerated onto the highway. She watched the skyline blur. "Security cameras saw everything," she said quietly. "They were meant to." She turned toward him slowly. "You wanted this public." His jaw tightened. "I wanted it final." "Final how?" "Once blood is spilled for you, you're no longer neutral." The words settled into her bones. "You just made me the reason men died. They chose that. You chose to pull the trigger." He looked at her then. No apology. No hesitation. Would you prefer I had waited? The answer lodged in her throat. The truth was worse than either option. She pressed her hands against her knees to stop them shaking. This isn't protection anymore. It never was only that. The city swallowed them again. Sirens fading into distance. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A single message appeared before she could block it. Screenshot. Her face beside his. Time-stamped minutes ago. Captioned in Korean. Translation unnecessary. Claim. She stared at it until the letters blurred. It's started, he said quietly. What has? He didn't look away from the road. The war. She felt something close around her ribs. Not fear this time. Recognition. She had tried to leave. He had answered with gunfire. And now the world had seen it. Did you just make me the center of a war? She asked. His silence was the only answer she needed. The car didn't return to the penthouse. It descended instead into an underground structure she had never seen before. Concrete. Fluorescent lights. No city skyline. No glass. Just reinforced doors and men who didn't speak unless spoken to. He stepped out first. She followed because there was nowhere else to go. A screen flickered on the far wall. Surveillance feeds. Airport footage already looping. The moment of impact. Shut. Her face visible for half a second before he pulled her behind him. She looked away. Turn it off. No one moved until he gave the smallest nod. The screens went dark. He removed his jacket slowly, handing it to someone without looking. There was no adrenaline in him now. Only calculation. They weren't trying to kill you, he said at last. She felt the words before she understood them. They had guns. They could have shot from a distance. He stepped closer to the central table where a map of Seoul was spread beneath glass. They wanted proximity. Why? He looked at her finally. Not as something fragile, as something strategic. Because they needed to confirm something. The room felt colder. Confirm what? He didn't soften it. That you matter. The air left her lungs slowly. They were testing you. Yes. To see if you would react. Yes. And you did. His jaw flexed. Yes. The truth settled into place like a lock clicking shut. She hadn't been the target. She had been the trigger. This was no longer about romance, she said quietly. He didn't disagree. Phone on the table vibrated. One of his men answered. Listen. His expression shifted almost imperceptibly before he handed the device over. He listened without speaking. Then ended the call. It's spreading. What is? The footage. He turned the screen back on himself. News outlets already running the clip. Headlines forming faster than facts. He enlarged a different window. Private message board used by syndicate networks. A new post had appeared minutes ago. No name attached. Just a number. Figure. Her breath caught. What is that? An offer. The number was large enough to buy loyalty. For what? His eyes stayed on the screen. Not to kill you. The pause was deliberate. To deliver you. Life. She stared at the digits again. They're offering that for me? For whoever brings you in breathing. The room felt smaller. Why alive? He didn't answer immediately. That was worse. Because dead ends the leverage, he said finally. Alive controls it. He took a step back. I'm not your weakness. You are. No denial. No argument. Just fact. And now they know. Her stomach turned. So they push harder. Yes. What does that mean? He folded his hands behind his back again. The posture of a man already planning retaliation. It means anyone who wants to destabilize me has a clear path. Through me. Yes. Silence filled the space. Not romantic. Not tragic. Tactical. You said you marked me to protect me, she said slowly. I did. But marking me made me visible. Yes. And visibility created proof. Yes. She almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because the simplicity of it was brutal. So I was never trapped by obsession, she murmured. I was leverage. His eyes flicked toward her. Something unreadable passing through them. You became leverage when I chose you publicly. You chose that, she pressed. Not me. A guard stepped forward hesitantly. Sir. He held up a hand without looking. Speak. 3 internal channels have already inquired about the bounty. Her pulse spiked. Internal. The guard swallowed. Within our extended network. She turned to him slowly. Your own people. He didn't flinch. Opportunists. They would sell me. For enough. The room felt like it tilted. So I'm worth more alive than dead. Yes. And every man in this building knows it. Yes. She felt something settle into place inside her. Not fear. Not anger. Understanding. You didn't just protect me, she said quietly. You priced me. His expression hardened. That wasn't the intention. Intent doesn't matter now. The screen refreshed again. The bounty number doubled. A collective murmur rippled through the room. He moved instantly, issuing rapid commands in Korean. Doors locking. Communications rerouting. Guards repositioning. The machine shifting to contain a threat. He hadn't anticipated this quickly. She stood still in the center of it all. Every eye aware of her value. Not her name. Not her history. Her value. If someone brings me to them, she asked evenly. What happens? He stopped moving. Looked at her fully. They break me. The honesty was brutal. And if no one succeeds, they keep trying. Forever. Until one of us is gone. The words hung heavy. This was no longer about possessive whispers in a parking garage. This was about economics. Strategy. Power. Is he protecting her, or preparing to use her? The thought surfaced before she could stop it. He stepped closer again, lowering his voice so only she could hear. I won't let anyone touch you. She searched his face. Even if delivering me would end the war. His silence lasted half a second too long. That was all she needed. The bounty number on the screen climbed again. Outside the reinforced walls, the city moved as usual. Inside she felt the shift completely. She wasn't the target. She was the currency. The room cleared on his command. Doors sealed. Monitors dimmed. Only the 2 of them remained beneath the fluorescent hum of reinforced silence. He stood across from her now. No guards, no advisors, no weapons in his hands. Just the weight of what had shifted. You have a choice, he said quietly. The words felt different this time. Not possessive. Not whispered in a parking garage. Calculated. I can move you tonight. New passport. New name. New country. You disappear. She didn't answer. He continued. Or you stay. His gaze sharpened. You stay beside me. Publicly. Untouchable under my name. Untouchable, she repeated. As long as I breathe. The promise wasn't romantic. It was territorial. You think attaching me harder will solve this? It raises the cost. To who? To anyone who moves against you. She studied him. Composed. Dangerous. And what does it cost me? His silence stretched half a beat. Freedom. There it was. Honest. Brutal. If I leave, she asked slowly. How long before they find me? Longer than if you stay. But not forever. Nothing is forever. The irony almost made her smile. If I stay, you become part of the architecture. Not the woman, she said. The structure. Yes. She stepped closer, closing the space deliberately. And you think either of those is a choice? His jaw flexed. It's the only one I can offer. No, she shook her head once. Those are your options. Not mine. Something flickered in his expression. Curiosity. Then give me yours. The room felt charged now. Not with fear. With shift. You said I'm leverage. Yes. You said they want me alive. Yes. Then hiding me keeps me valuable. He didn't interrupt. And placing me under your name permanently makes me predictable. His eyes narrowed slightly. She held his gaze. So we changed the narrative. He was listening now. Fully. We don't hide me. No. And we don't cage me under your protection. No, we go public. The word landed between them. Public, he repeated. Testing it. We control it before they do. How? Engagement. The silence that followed was thick. Fake, she clarified. Strategic. His stare didn't waver. You think that neutralizes the bounty? No, she said evenly. It changes it. Explain. Right now, I'm leverage because I'm uncertain. She stepped toward the screen and tapped it back on. The bounty number glowed again. They think I'm your weakness. You are. Not if I look like a decision. He watched her carefully. If the world believes I chose you, she continued, I stop being leverage. I become alignment. His mind was moving now. Yes. Visibility can be armor, she said softly. He exhaled once. And what happens when enemies don't believe it? Then they test it. Which escalates. Everything already escalated. Beat of silence. He moved toward her slowly. You understand what this means. Yes. You stand beside me publicly. There's no return to neutrality. There already isn't. He studied her as if recalibrating something fundamental. You're willing to let the world believe you belong to me. I'm willing to let them believe I'm not afraid of it. The difference mattered. And if they target you harder, he pressed, then at least I'm not hiding. He stepped closer until they were only inches apart. You think perception changes violence. It changes who hesitates. Long pause. Then he nodded once. Decision made. Call the media liaison, he said into the intercom without looking away from her. Prepare statement. The machinery began moving instantly. Phones buzzing. Orders relayed. Within minutes, drafts appeared on the screen. He read them silently. Edited. Removed softness. Added certainty. We announce tonight, he said. Before rumors set the tone. And make it clear this was mutual, she added. His eyes flicked toward her again. Measuring. Yes. A photographer was summoned. Lights adjusted. She stood beside him beneath the artificial brightness of curated narrative. His hand rested at her waist. Not gripping. Not claiming. Present. The first flash went off. She didn't flinch. Smile, the aide suggested softly. He didn't. She met the camera with something steadier. The announcement went live within the hour. Headlines shifting from airport violence to union. Syndicate Air confirms engagement to civilian partner. Engagement. The word felt heavy and hollow at once. He dismissed the room again once it was done. Silence returned. You've altered the board, he said quietly. So have you. This protects you, he added. Or paints me clearer. Both. He didn't deny it. Her phone buzzed again. This time not an unknown number. A message from a private channel. One line. The bounty had not been withdrawn. Had increased. She showed him without speaking. His expression didn't change. False safety, she murmured. He nodded slowly. They don't believe it. Outside the reinforced walls, the news cycle turned in their favor. Public opinion swayed. Engagement celebrated. Inside, the number glowed brighter than before. She looked at him carefully. What happens when enemies don't believe it's fake? He didn't answer immediately. Then very quietly, they try to prove it is. The gala was already in motion when they arrived. Crystal chandeliers. Gold light spilling over polished marble. Politicians. Investors. Syndicate captains disguised as philanthropists. Every camera in the city was here. She stepped out of the car before he could reach for her door. Flashbulbs exploded. Questions shouted in 2 languages. Is the engagement official? When is the wedding? Was the airport incident connected? His hand found the small of her back, steady but visible. Ownership without force. She didn't lean into him. She didn't pull away. The doors opened. Music swelled. Conversations thinned the moment they entered. Heads turned. Calculations shifted. She felt it immediately. Not hostility. Assessment. Who is she really? He guided her toward the center of the ballroom. She kept her posture controlled, breath even. A man approached first. Polite. Smiling. Sharp. Congratulations, he said, bowing slightly. Unexpected. Most strategic things are, he replied evenly. The man's smile faltered. He stepped aside. Then the woman appeared. Elegant. Silver gown cut like a blade. Not a guest. Authority. She didn't look at him first. She looked at her. Slowly. So this is the civilian, the woman said softly, voice smooth as glass. Conversations around them stalled. This is my fiancé, he corrected. Temporary titles are dangerous, the woman replied without blinking. She stepped closer. You must understand how complicated you've made things. By attending a party, she asked calmly. The woman's smile didn't reach her eyes. By inserting yourself into a structure you don't understand. I didn't insert myself. No, the woman agreed. You were placed. The words were sharp, public, intentional. A small circle had formed around them now. Not obvious, but listening. Careful, he said quietly. I am, the woman replied. I'm careful about what looks like manipulation. She turned to her again. Did you know he has never brought anyone into council chambers? The implication hung heavy. She held the woman's gaze. Did you know I didn't ask to be? A ripple moved through the room. The woman tilted her head slightly. You're naive if you think proximity isn't power. And you're threatened if you think it is, she answered softly. Silence. Dangerous. The woman's expression cooled. You believe you can influence him? No, she said evenly. I believe I don't need to. A faint murmur passed through nearby clusters. He stepped forward then. Not smooth. Not strategic. Emotional. That's enough, he said, voice lower now. The woman turned her gaze to him at last. You've made her a liability, she said. You've made her visible. I made her untouchable. No one is untouchable. His hand tightened slightly at her back. She is. The certainty wasn't calculated. It was personal. And everyone heard it. The room shifted. Not loudly, but decisively. Alliances recalibrating. You're risking internal fracture, the woman pressed. Then let it fracture, he replied without hesitation. That was the moment. The room felt it. When power becomes personal, empires fracture. The woman studied him for a long beat, then smiled faintly. Very well. She stepped back. Let's see how loyal your men remain. She walked away without another word. Conversations resumed, but differently now. Quieter. Tighter. He turned to her. Are you all right? You shouldn't have done that. Done what? Made it personal. His jaw set. It is personal. That's the problem. He looked past her toward a cluster of men near the stage. Senior captains. Watching. Measuring. It's already shifted, she murmured. Yes. Then shift it fully. He studied her again. Something sharp in his gaze. Decision forming. Without warning, he stepped toward the podium at the front of the ballroom. The microphone feedbacked softly as he took it. Conversations died instantly. Before tonight continues, he said evenly, voice carrying without strain, there's a clarification to make. Every eye locked on him. Her. She is not a guest. Was. She is not temporary. Another pause. The woman in silver didn't move. Beginning next week, he continued, she will sit beside me during leadership council meetings. The words detonated quietly. Shock rippled through the room. Not applause. Not protest. Calculation. Any decision made by this house will include her presence. He didn't look at anyone else when he said it. Only her. The announcement hung heavy in the chandelier light. It wasn't romance. It was restructure. He stepped down from the stage without waiting for reaction. The music resumed. Conversations exploded behind polite masks. She turned toward him slowly. You just crossed a line. It was already crossed. Not internally. His gaze shifted briefly toward a man near the back of the room. A lieutenant. Younger. Silent. Expression unreadable. The man didn't clap. Didn't smile. Didn't look away. She felt it too. The fracture. The subtle tilt of loyalty. You've created enemies inside your own walls, she said quietly. They were already there. Now they have motive. He didn't deny it. The man near the back raised his glass slowly. Not in celebration. In acknowledgement. Something in his eyes settled into place. Decision made. She leaned closer to him, voice barely above a whisper. Which lieutenant just decided I must disappear? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. They made it halfway down the marble staircase before the first shot cracked through the night. Glass shattered above the entrance doors. Gus screamed. Someone dropped a champagne flute that exploded across the floor. She didn't see the flash. She felt the impact of his body hitting hers. Hard. Controlled. He drove her to the ground behind a stone column as another shot punched into the pillar inches from where her head had been. The sound echoed inside the portico like thunder. Stay down, he ordered. Not loud. Not panic. Precise. His hand locked around the back of her neck, pressing her lower as security surged forward. Men in suits drew weapons that hadn't existed a second earlier. Third shot rang out. This one missed entirely. The shooter was adjusting. Roofline, someone shouted. Northeast corner. She could feel his pulse through his palm. Rest. Controlled. Calculating. Another gunshot, this one from below. Then two more. Different rhythm. His men had found the angle. Silence fell abruptly. Too abruptly. He didn't move for 3 full seconds. Counting. Listening. Then he rose halfway, keeping her behind him. Secure it, he commanded. Within seconds, a figure was dragged across the pavement near the barricades. Not dead. Bleeding from the shoulder. Mask torn away. Young. Frightened. Alive. He stepped toward the captive slowly. She grabbed his sleeve. Don't. He looked at her once. Just once. Then continued walking. The shooter tried to sit upright. Failed. 2 guards held him down. Who sent you? He asked calmly. The young man hesitated. Blood soaked into the red carpet rolled out for donors and dignitaries. Speak, he said again. Not louder. Harper. The young man swallowed. His eyes flicked briefly, not at her. At someone near the far column. Just for a second. That was enough. He followed the glance. His gaze locked on a familiar face in the crowd. One of his captains. Senior. Trusted. Will. Watching. Answer, he said to the shooter. Or I let you bleed. The young man's breath shook. I was told she destabilizes the house. The words were weak. Honest. By who? The hesitation this time lasted half a beat too long. He didn't need the name spoken. He already knew. He turned slowly toward the captain. The man didn't deny it. Didn't run. Didn't argue. He stepped forward instead. You made it personal, the captain said evenly. You put her above structure. The courtyard was silent now. Every guest frozen. Every camera recording. You endangered succession, the captain continued. You endangered discipline. You endangered her, he replied softly. The captain's jaw tightened. The house must survive. It will. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't draw his weapon immediately. He simply stepped closer until they were face to face beneath the fractured chandelier light spilling from inside. On my terms, The captain's hand moved first. Not toward a weapon. Toward him. A gesture meant to persuade. He didn't allow it. The gun appeared between them in one fluid motion. The sound of the shot was almost lost in the ringing still hanging in the air. The captain fell backward onto polished stone. Blood spreading beneath tailored fabric. No second shot. No hesitation. Final. Gasps broke through the silence like cracks in ice. She felt her stomach drop. He didn't look at her. He looked at the remaining captains instead. Any further misunderstandings? His voice was ice. No one answered. No one moved. The shooter was dragged away screaming. Alive. The body of the captain lay still at the foot of the staircase where donors and press had gathered only minutes earlier. Some lines once crossed don't fade. He stepped back toward her finally. His suit jacket bore dust from the ground where he had shielded her. A faint tear at the shoulder where the bullet had grazed fabric. "Are you hurt?" he asked. The same question. Every time. She shook her head slowly. "You just killed your own lieutenant." He made his decision. "So did you." His eyes didn't flicker. "He chose to threaten what I protect." Sirens wailed in the distance now. Police. Media. Everything converging. His security moved quickly to create a corridor toward the waiting vehicles. "This changes things," she said quietly as he guided her forward. "Yes. Inside your house." "Yes." She glanced back once at the body. At the faces watching from the balcony. Fear. Calculation. Resentment. "You didn't just punish him," she said. "You sent a message." "Correct. That I matter more than rank." He didn't deny it. They reached the car. Doors slammed shut. Engines roared to life. As they pulled away from flashing lights and chaos, she watched him in the dim interior. His breathing had steadied already. Controlled. Entered. But something beneath it had shifted permanently. Did he just destabilize his own throne? The thought hung between them unspoken. She turned toward him slowly. Was it worth it? He didn't answer immediately. The city lights blurred across the window like streaks of fire. Then, quietly, without hesitation, "Yes." The retaliation didn't wait for morning. By sunrise, 3 of his distribution warehouses were in flames. Not random fires. Coordinated. Efficient. News helicopters circled overhead broadcasting smoke columns against the pale sky. Commentators speculated about internal fracture. Political spokesmen distanced themselves within hours. Donations paused. Contracts suspended. Silence from men who once returned his calls instantly. She watched it unfold from the secured floor of the building, screens lining the wall, each one showing another fracture. "They're testing your perimeter," she said quietly. "They're testing loyalty," he corrected. His voice wasn't angry. It was surgical. Reports filtered in every minute. Convoy rerouted. A shipment seized by officials who suddenly discovered compliance concerns. An ally refusing to attend an emergency meeting. The cost of last night's shot was rippling outward like cracks in ice. "This is because of me," she said. He didn't respond immediately. That told her enough. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Picture loaded slowly. Her mother stepping out of a grocery store. Timestamped 15 minutes ago. She froze. Another message followed. "We know where comfort lives." Her chest tightened. "They sent it directly," she whispered. He crossed the room in 3 strides. Took the phone. His jaw hardened. "Already handled." "Handled how?" "Vehicles are en route." "What vehicles?" He looked at her carefully. "Extraction." The word struck like a slap. "No, it's necessary. You don't get to decide that." "I already did." The finality in his tone was different now. Not possessive. Protective. Territorial. "You can't just move them." "I can. Without asking them. If I ask, they hesitate. They have a life. They have a target on their door." She stepped back. You said you wouldn't cage me. I'm not. You're caging everyone around me. His expression didn't soften. Protection always leaves smoke. The words felt like a verdict. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was her mother calling. She answered immediately. Are you sending men here? Her mother demanded without greeting. She closed her eyes. Mom, black SUVs just blocked the street. She looked at him, fury rising. They're here to keep you safe, she said carefully. From who? From me, she almost said. Instead, from people who want leverage. We don't want protection, her mother insisted. We want normal. Her throat tightened. Normal isn't an option right now. Since when? Silence stretched. Since I stayed. The line went quiet. What did you do? Her mother asked finally. She didn't know how to answer that. The call ended without resolution. She lowered the phone slowly. They didn't agree, she said. Agreement isn't survival. So now they belong to your perimeter. He didn't deny it. Another screen flashed. Media headlines updating. Her name leaked. Not speculation anymore. Full identification. Background pulled. Old photos from her university days. Childhood address blurred but visible enough. The bounty thread online doubled again. They're raising the price, one of his advisors said from the doorway. Internal chatter is volatile. He nodded once. The advisor withdrew. You see, she said quietly. Staying doesn't stabilize anything. Leaving wouldn't either. At least it wouldn't cage them. It would make them reachable. She paced once across the room. You moved them without consent. I moved them before consent could cost them. You don't own every solution. I own the consequences. So do I. He stepped closer. No, the word was firm. Final. The consequences attached to me. They already attached to me. She gestured toward the screens. My name is everywhere. And alive. At what price? The room fell silent except for the low hum of news commentary. Smoke rising. Political statements. Analysts debating whether his public execution signaled weakness. You're losing allies, she said softly. They were never allies. You're losing control. Control shifts. You're losing legitimacy. He didn't respond. That was answer enough. Secure call came through. He answered without looking away from her. Confirmed, the voice said on speaker. Family relocated to secondary residence. Perimeter secure. Her stomach dropped. It was done. Forever? She asked quietly once the line disconnected. Until the environment stabilizes. Define stabilize. He didn't. She stared at him. They didn't choose this. Neither did you. I chose to stay. You chose visibility. You chose ownership. The air felt tight between them. Heavy. You think I enjoy this? He asked quietly. I think you justify it. Because it keeps you breathing. Breathing inside a cage. His eyes flashed briefly. A living cage is preferable to a grave. The words were brutal. Honest. She turned toward the window. The city skyline looked the same as yesterday. But it wasn't. Smoke still lingered on the horizon. Sirens still distant. Can I love a man who cages everyone he saves? The question surfaced in her mind before she could stop it. She didn't say it out loud. She didn't need to. He stood behind her, close but not touching. This will settle, he said finally. Everything does. She watched another news ticker scroll her name across the bottom of the screen. Settling didn't look like peace. It looked like entrenchment. You said I was untouchable, she murmured. You are. Then why does it feel like everything around me burns? He didn't answer. Outside the smoke thinned. Inside the cost thickened. The fires stopped before the week ended. Not because the anger cooled. Because the responses were final. Warehouses rebuilt under new management. Political statements softened. The lieutenant who had whispered against him no longer appeared at meetings. The bounty threads went quiet one by one. Not erased. Concluded. By the time the council gathered again, the room felt different. Not fractured. Sealed. He stood at the head of the long table beneath the dim brass lights. No visible wounds. No raised voice. Just structure restored. Territories are secure, one advisor reported. External chatter has stabilized. Internal, he asked, was contained. Contained meant silenced. Contained meant lines redrawn. The council eyes drifted toward her as she entered. No whispers now. No confrontation. Just acknowledgement. She took the chair beside him without instruction. She could feel it in the air. Not welcome. Acceptance. The war had narrowed around her. And then closed. When the meeting adjourned, he didn't dismiss her. He waited until the room cleared entirely. The heavy doors sealed shut. "It's done," he said quietly. She nodded once. The smoke outside had cleared. The news cycle had moved on. Her family now lived behind private gates in a city they didn't choose. Life. Protected. Removed. He stepped closer. "You're free." The word felt strange now. "No surveillance," he continued. "No tracking. No escort. And my family. Protected whether you stay or leave. By your perimeter. Yes." He didn't pretend otherwise. "No contracts," he added. "No legal bindings." She studied him carefully. He wasn't performing. He wasn't negotiating. He was offering. "You can walk out that door," he said softly. "And I won't follow." Silence settled between them. Not tense. Heavy. She turned toward the exit. Each step felt louder than it should have. The handle was only a few feet away. Freedom was simple in theory. Just distance. He paused. Not because he spoke. He didn't. Not because the door was locked. It wasn't. She paused because the silence behind her felt different. Not controlling. Waiting. She turned back slowly. He hadn't moved. "If I leave," she asked quietly, "does the structure shift again?" "Yes." "Does someone test it?" "Yes." "Does someone try to prove I was your weakness?" "Yes." "And if I stay?" His gaze didn't waver. "They know you were never leverage. They'll believe I chose it." "Yes." "Belief becomes truth," she murmured. He didn't smile. "In my world it does." She walked back toward him slowly. Not rushed. Not dramatic. The council doors opened again behind her. Not by accident. He had called them back without her noticing. The captains re-entered one by one. Silent. Watching. The structure assembling again. She stopped beside him. "You said no contracts," she said softly. "Correct. Then make it visible." He held her gaze for a long second, then reached into his inner jacket pocket. Not a weapon. Not paperwork. A ring. Old. Heavy. The metal worn smooth by generations. The council stilled. "This ring doesn't belong to romance," he said evenly, voice carrying across the chamber. "It belongs to succession." The air tightened. "It signifies alignment," he continued. "Not possession." He looked at her once more. Not commanding. Asking. She didn't look away. He slid the ring onto her finger. Fit. The room absorbed the gesture in complete silence. Not applause. Not protest. Acceptance. Strategic. Public. Permanent. The orientation shifted instantly. She was no longer the civilian attached to the house. She was inside the architecture. The last ambiguity evaporated. He stepped back slightly, allowing the council full view. "There will be no further debate," he said calmly. No one spoke. No one challenged it. The fracture from days ago had sealed over completely. She felt the weight of the ring settle against her skin. Not romantic. Structural. She had stepped toward the door. She had been free. And she had turned back. The council bowed slightly in acknowledgement. One by one they exited again. The chamber emptied. Silence returned, heavier than before. She looked down at her hand. Now and always, she said quietly. Not as surrender, as recognition. He met her eyes. Now and always, he repeated. Outside the chamber, the city moved without knowing what had just solidified. She had tried to walk away. He had whispered that she belonged to him. By morning the world believed it. And in his world, belief becomes truth.